Hi, good evening and welcome to Rangers Radio. Joining myself Southside on the show this evening is Juicy Bear and the legend Bridgeman.
Good evening, guys. Good evening.
I'm going to say a big good evening to you, Southside, and yourself, Juicy, and the techie guys as well. Good evening to you guys. Can I just say to all the Rangers fans all over the world, in particular Rangers fans within Rangers Radio, good evening and welcome to Rangers Radio.
I'd like to welcome you two guys tonight. Obviously, I've been flung in the night. Ox couldn't make it. So you're stuck with me, so I need to apologise to the listeners. Totally unscripted tonight as well, guys, I'm afraid. So if there's anybody out there wishing to phone in, I'm sure, Juicy, if you're looking for any foreign holidays or anything like that, or anything to do with Rangers knowledge, Juicy's your man. And I think, Bridgeman, you'll be up there with the stocks and shares and anywhere you want to put your money into, any of the electricity or companies and that, because I know you made a big bonus. But ending at all, obviously, if you want to phone in, I'll answer boxing or golf questions tonight as well as football. I suppose we might as well fling that in as well, Bridge.
Golf?
Aye, we might as well. No, but seriously, I've been thinking, well, I don't want to get back too much, guys, but just I was thinking a bit about what John Bennett said the other day, and I was having a wee think about things. And I know one of the callers, I think it was Smurfett, was on Friday when he was talking about it. And I thought a lot about what he said when he was on after the show and that. And I came to the conclusion, I know the way the board didn't really invest as much as we'd hoped, but do you think we lived in a world where the board think that we should be happy that we won the league when we did, and we won a Scottish Cup, and we over-excelled in Europe, so we should be happy that we done that? And that's still sort of, when I listen to John Bennett, it sort of upped me a wee bit when I've sort of digested it all. Is I think, is he starting to think that we should be happy with this, do you know?
I think as fans, particularly fans of Glasgow Rangers, we're always striving for more, aren't we, guys? We always want to improve. We know that there's tournaments and trophies that we can win every season. Of course, it's great to look back on past achievements. You can never take that away from any club. But we can't just settle for that. It's about progressing and moving forward. And he said a lot in 2 interviews without really saying a lot, if you know what I mean. He gave us bits and pieces, but fans really want to know the key parts about investing in the squad, moving the squad forward. It is nice to know about the infrastructure of the club, facilities management and the like, but I think a lot of fans take that for given, that is how it is, and that should just be part of the day-to-day management of the club. Of course, they have to spend on things like maintenance and roofs and upgrades and facilities, of course. But trying to get information from the guy on player movements and transfers and scouting really didn't answer any of those kind of questions, did it, to any great degree?
I think Bridge, myself, a lot of it was pre-asked questions. I think he knew it was coming. I think there's a couple of things that he did speak about, and I think we can understand it. It's took them probably 6 months to come out and speak, and I know Stuart Robertson done an interview as well after it as well. But would you be happy? Like, we pay top dollar to go and sit at Ibrox, and I know we've been starved of the domestic success in the last wee while because we had to come back up through the leagues. But do you feel like sometimes I think they take us for granted, Bridge?
Well, that's always a perennial type feeling that Rangers, well, not just Rangers fans, a lot of fans of other clubs feel the same, that they're bored this and they're bored that. And in particular with the Rangers, at the present moment, they're being ultra cautious. That's my feeling. They're being very, very cautious. And the non-investment over the summer period there, shall we say, on big quality players, then that's a wee bit irking to any fan of Rangers. But the truth of the matter is, we don't know, of course. The truth of the matter is that the club may not actually have any money for spending players, budget-wise. They just may not have it. So It might be somewhere else. It might not have been paid for things. Maybe what some of the money we're talking about will come in 3 months' time or something. I just don't know. So it sounds to me as if they've been ultra cautious themselves. I don't know what's going on. The shenanigans going on about is it Chairman Park wants his money out and so on and so forth. I don't know if there's any truth in that at all. I really don't. So all these things will come out. Certainly, they're not going to say too much because the AGM's due to come up very soon. So within the next month or so, the AGM will be there, and we'll find out what the hell's happening then. I would hope, I think Mr. Robertson's in for a hiding on that.
I think, the last AGM we were at, Mr. Bisgrove and obviously Ross Wilson were sitting quite comfortably in the chair at the front of the stage. I don't know if they'll be doing that this year. No, you're looking for it. All we want is transparency. We don't want every single bit of detail. But I think we're supporters, and he tells us that we own the club. We're not in a privileged position. We've got that amount of money that they've got to sit there, but they're custodians of our club, Juicy, and we're just looking for a bit more dialogue. Obviously, for the defeats that we had on the park in the sort of the transfer window that we had at the end of the season, where I think a few years thought we might have got a transfer or two in before the end of the transfer window. I think after that and the backlash started a wee bit, I think that's when they realised that they had to come out and speak. And it was good that he done it, but I think it was a lot of sound bites.
That's exactly what it is. And it may well have been provoked by some of the fan reaction to the lack of signings or the zero signings upon qualification for the Champions League had been confirmed. That's what a lot of fans were surprised about. But when he was talking about all the facilities management and maintenance stuff, he was clearly trying to deflect in terms of where the money had gone to. And again, I'm fine with us spending money on those things, but he was making it sound like we weren't in a position to maybe get players. But we are all well aware that we've made some decent money over the last 12 months in player sales, going all the way back to when we first sold Patterson. It's been a good 12 months in terms of revenue that we've had for the players we've sold. And we haven't seen that anywhere near reinvested back into the playing squad. That doesn't mean that they still haven't got money aside. I'd always rather invest in the summer than in January, though. I always feel like January has a level of panic when a club goes into making too many signings in January. But, that's an opinion.
Well, that brings me on to something that I was obviously going to touch on when you're saying that. He mentioned the player trading model, right, Bridge, and he also said that it didn't start until Nathan Patterson, right, which is fair enough. We've also sold Aribo, so we've made money on him, and obviously the big one was Calvin Bassey, Bridge. But if you look through our squad at the moment, where's our next training model then? Where's the next player that we should have more or less ready to sell? We should probably have one for the end of next season that we'd be thinking of moving on then, or the season after. So if you look at our squad now, who is our next player then?
If you ask me to put money on anything, I would say Hadji. I think Hadji would be the next player you would try and sell. That's my honest opinion. I just still injured. He might not be back until after Christmas, allegedly. So you just don't know. This is all talk. You just don't know. Nobody's telling us anything.
No,
but I don't know about the players coming through, the youngsters coming through. The young boy King's getting his chances. The young boy, the wee midfielder, what was his second name? For God Almighty sake. He played
Boy Lowry, or Charlie McCann. Charlie McCann.
Charlie McCann. And the Boy Lowry as well, of course. But I don't know if Rangers, I don't think Rangers can afford to lose the quality ones that they've got. That's my honest opinion, because we don't look as if we've got anything to replace them. It's a bit. We're in a bit of a stramash at the moment. We're club and we're players. So hopefully that's all going to get itself sorted out. We're going to get our players back from injury. I've never known injuries to players that's taken so long for them to get back. And Hadji, Helander, Roof. My God, what's happening to our club? In that sense, It's incredible. I've never known anything like it.
It's been quite a while, Bridge. We've always had, in the past, we've had players that have picked up injuries. I mean, you could probably think back to Prodan, Rosenthal, Kuznetsov, there's three that spring to mind, that unfortunately got injured while they were here and then went out and we never really seen the best of them again, or seen much of them, especially Daniel Prodan. I just find that we've actually run. Kent and Alfie have been allowed to run down their contracts, right? I get possibly a season or two ago we would possibly have got money for them. So obviously they two might have been there if people are saying, well, we had them, but we've let them run their contracts down one way or another. Kamara, I think, would have been the only one that we might have been able to flip. But at the moment, when you look through that squad, and we're supposed to have a conveyor belt of talent that we're going to move on after a period of time, we've not really got anybody else now coming through. I know you say Hadji, Bridge, and that might be true, but he's got to come back, get fitness, Juicy, and hope that he can come back and start playing again and there's no problems.
Yeah, agreed. I think Kamara is the one that I would probably put before Hadji because of that reason. With Hadji still needing to get himself back to where we know he's capable of being. Kamara, we paid almost nothing for, and I know his form isn't quite where it has been previously, and he's not really looked the same player. I mean, I don't think he's been the same player ever since the unfortunate Slavia Prague incident. And a lot of people have said he's checked out ever since his friends have left the club in Aribo and Bassi. Maybe we should have sold him in the summer, but even if he does go in January, we're still going to get some good cash when you consider we paid £50,000 for him. So, even if he doesn't go for what some people were saying, he was worth 10 million plus, etc. Even if it's 5 million plus, that's still a fantastic return on what the club paid out. After him, I then looked to the players that Bridgeman mentioned in Hadji, Lowry, King, McCann. Those boys are the future assets, which if we can nurture them in the same way that we nurtured Bassi and Patterson, we'll be able to get some decent cash for them. King is now in the first team, guys, and is featuring, to a reasonable level this season. I'm pretty sure Lowry will be joining him once he's back in full fitness again. So I think we have got some opportunities there, Southside, to continue that conveyor belt. I do agree it has stuttered a little bit. But, it's only in the last 12 months that we've sold the likes of Patterson and Bassi. And it's only really in the last 12 months where we've actually started to really show some kind of fruition from that sort of kind of dealing, because we haven't really done that for years. And it's only now that we're back that was, into where we should be, that we're able to start doing those kind of transfers with people that we brought up through the ranks. So I think we've got to be a little bit patient. I know we want everything now, but if in 1 to 2 seasons, we don't necessarily want to sell them, especially if they're good players, but if that's something that's part of our model and making a significant profit on those young guys that I've just mentioned, it's not a bad thing.
Sorry.
I know, you go, Bridge.
I was just going to say, look, Morelos and Kent, they're the two big names, as far as we're concerned, at the club, that we've no sort of done their contract, not getting a new contract. I think Kamara's got another year to go over and above. So next summer and the following
2025, Bridge.
Yeah. So he would be you would have to get cash for him if you're going to sell him in the summer. But the chances of selling Morelos and Kent are getting slimmer and slimmer. I don't know any clubs that are going to give any money for them, and they know their form isn't great. They might just want to be run. Maybe they're wanting to run down their contract. Now, I don't mean to be. I'm not meaning to besmirch anyone. I don't mean anything like that. I just mean that maybe they know. Well, I don't want to be at Rangers any longer, and I'll wait till the end of the summer, and I'll just go when my contract's up. At least I've not dropped the club in the shit. I'm still here. I'm still trying to play that kind of thing, which they look as if they are, but their form is very poor. Hence the reason why I'm saying they may turn out like just what I'm saying about like Goldson, and nobody wants them, so they're just going to sign a new contract. That's what I think might happen there.
Well, if it's all right with you two guys, I think we'll get the phone lines open. We'll see if anybody wants to come in and talk about it. And we've got a couple of players that I will mention after if we get the callers in. So let's hear from you.
Why don't you give us a call on 0141 356 1972. It's your show. It's your platform. Let's hear from you.
I agree with you, Bridge, to a point. I just, the way he says it, and I just thought, well, we're looking at the squad, who else are you looking to flip in a season or two? And obviously, if you're looking at the squad now and what we've got, and I know it will change in the summer, but you're not going to then flip a player within a season, I wouldn't think, unless you're doing a sort of Calvin Bassey, who did sort of go in that sort of season and a half to sort of 2 seasons slightly. But I just look at the squad and I don't see anybody else in a conveyor belt. Maybe Glenn Kamara, just but like we said, his form's dipped. If I'm honest, the 3 that we spoke about, Lowry, King and McCann at the moment, I would love to see these 3 guys come in, just into our first team and probably play, say, for the next 5 seasons.
That would be ideal. It's just if clubs come in with offers that we've seen for some of the players that have already left, what's our management team going to do with that? What decision will they make? I'm more of a footballing person than I am a sort of football management kind of guy in terms of the finances. I would much rather keep a good player and have them play for Glasgow Rangers than whatever they're worth to any other club. If they're a good player, I'd love it if they could stay with us. But I appreciate that's not how the world moves in football business, particularly when the media and the TV, which I'm sure we'll get onto later, is what it is in Scotland. Some of those restrictions mean we have to find other ways to make money. I appreciate that. But if we were to have these guys in for a few years, that would be great. And that's why, as far as Kamara goes, it's not that he hasn't been with us for a brief time. We've had him for a few seasons. And, we'll still make a profit on him, even though he's had a slump in form, based on the fact that we paid so little for him, Southside. So I've always got to look on the positive side of things. And I think that would be a good piece of business. His form has dropped. If he was to go in January, we'd still make a few million on him at the very least. And as far as players like Alfredo is concerned, got to remember, we only paid $1 million for him. And I know sometimes he's been a bit up and down, but we don't really lose anything by him leaving at the end of the season. Kent is a different matter because we paid a lot more money for Kent. And I think, when you're approaching almost $7 million, you'd want to see us recoup something on that. I wouldn't be surprised if we made an attempt to sell him in January. But with Alfredo, it was only $1 million. So I think, yes, we could have perhaps sold him for a bit more a few years ago, guys, but I'd rather keep him for the season.
I think we've been joined by Blue Star. How are you doing, Blue Star?
Evening, guys. Good show again, as always. I was just listening to you there, and exactly as Juicy just said, Morelos has been here, 5? This was his 6th season. It did only cost us $1 million, and we knew that he was only basically a kind of a raw, not so much youngster, but you know what I mean. He hadn't played in the British football game.
Well, he was raw, Blue Star, when we got him. He was really raw. Remember when he first came?
Exactly, mate. And I would say, all intents and purposes, it costing £1 million. £1 million. Let's be truthful nowadays. Whilst it's maybe a lot to other clubs, $1 million's no vast sum of money for our club. I agree with you. Say the Kent one's a totally different ball game. He's our dearest signing, and at $7 million, you certainly would be looking. I don't know. Surely, goodness, guys, you'd be looking for some kind of a wee bit of payback. Even if it was a couple of £1 million, $2 million can even get you, I don't know, a reasonable player, especially in this for the Scottish game.
I think the problem, Blue Star, the problem is that see come January, he's only got that 6 months left. You know, I think he'd love to get 2 million, but I don't see it. You know, clubs would probably just sit.
I get it. I totally agree with you. It's just that you kind of say to yourself, okay, they're going to save his wages. That's number one, and he'll not be on a pittance. So, granted, you can use that up, but I don't know so much. I mean, your English clubs, he's obviously wanting to go to England. We all know that. I still think, okay, Leeds were reportedly in for him a few times. You would have thought, even if it was a championship side, they would be more than willing. I get it that he's only got 6 months left. It would depend how much they wanted him if, as you say, come January. I still think you could get a reasonable, half-decent bit of fee for the likes of Ken. If somebody, it's like everything else. It depends if somebody really wants him, you know.
I think Blue Star, where him is, I'm not coming to Juicy with this, but I think what you're saying, see, like before he came to us, he was moving about the Championship, Bristol City and things like that. Yeah. He was never settled and he was never going to get in that Liverpool first team. And to be honest, we've given him a good platform. And don't get me wrong, he was flying last season in Europe for us, Blue Star, you know, and on his day, he is a good player. He just can't get the numbers up. And his assists at the moment are down and his confidence looks a bit down. And I think when you're in that last year of your contract, a lot of fingers get pointed at you, you know, when your form goes down. And I have said sometimes I think he tries too hard, if I'm honest. At times he's coming too deep to pick the ball up. But I just don't see he's getting much money for him now, Juicy, at all. I don't think with the 6 months left, I just don't see he's really managing to get much. Maybe $1 million if you were lucky, $500,000. I don't know. But that's 6 months left. It's pittance.
There may well be a club. Sorry, Bridgeman. There may be a club that does come in January. You know, we've seen all over Europe by the time you get to January, halfway through a season, various clubs are in various positions in terms of what they might need, how they're progressing in their league or in Europe. I also know that a lot of the Rangers fan base aren't particularly thrilled with Kent in terms of his performances over the last, you'd probably almost say 12 months, aside from some of those European performances outside. And they, you know, wouldn't necessarily want him to sign anyway. He's clearly being difficult on the negotiations, him or his team. You know, we've heard of some clubs that have been interested in him previously, Leeds and the like. But some of these clubs might just be waiting until January to get him at either cut price or waiting until the summer, in which case he leaves for nothing. And that is going to be a loss for us. Sometimes clubs make losses on players. And for every loss they might make some money on some other players. And you know, you just don't want to see that too often because, you know, as Blue Star said, he's been one of our most expensive players in the last few years. So, well, since Torre Andre Flo.
I think it's clubs in England can sometimes lose money like that, but we certainly can't afford to be letting them walk out the door. But that might just have to happen, Bridges. We've took players to the club that we've took for other clubs. You know, that's just the way it works.
I think you'll probably find that Kent still shines for a lot of folk, and we're all hoping that he plays very well and signs for us because we do like him as a player. However, in particular this season, he has not. He's been a mere shadow of himself. He's not been great. His form's extremely poor, considering the form he showed last season. So that's the kind of thing. And I don't know if it's affecting his mind, and he just doesn't care. But we've got a big worry. You're at the end of September now. You've only got really 2 months to convince him to stay, because come the new year, he'll be, shall we say, up for the sort of, what do you call it, pre-contract type thing. So people could come in there and just get him to sign on for nothing. Obviously, get him money.
Blue Star, I think we agree. I think we can all agree that if Alfie goes, then we've certainly had our money's worth out of him, considering what we paid the transfer fee. I know we've had to pay him in wages, but we've made him a far better player than what came to us. I mean, we went for £1 million for Helsinki. I remember when he first came in, he was shooting for all mad angles. He would never pass a ball. His heat was doing, if you remember. He was just wanting to shoot all over the place when he first came to Ibrox, if you remember, boys, that.
Totally concur with what you're saying. You're bang on. Here's the thing. We've got 3 games left in that Champions League. And I'm a bit like yourself. I totally agree with you there. And I know in the other shows you've at least kind of stood up for Kent. And I know you have, because I've heard you. And then the point I tried to make the other night was, I genuinely don't believe he's been anywhere near as bad as what folk are hitting him for. I really don't. I think a lot of that's been down to how poor the rest of the team has been as well. I mean, in the European games, even against that last one in Napoli, if you watch Kent, to be fair to the guy, he put in. The ironic thing is, he put in quite a few tackles when he was back in that virtually at left back in front of Barisic, and that's a fact. So I don't think it's been anywhere near the fact that the guy's not been trying and he's not hit the heart. The one thing you can look at Kent is, if you look at his upper body strength, he's quite a broad guy. And if you think of the times that we've had him, he's never been out with a long-term injury. He certainly seems to be fit enough. Yes, he's had niggles in that, but he's never had any big injury. So he obviously can look after himself. And if you look at some of the tackles, especially against, I think it was Ajax a couple of times, he took 2 absolute belting tackles. In fact, for me, one of them, I know Bridge was on about it at the time, one of them was certainly a red card. He got up, dusted himself down, and to be fair to the guy, he still ran up and down, although the rest of the team, as I say, we never get near them. So in that respect, I don't think it's been anything like that. He's not trying hard enough. Yes, there's been too many times when he's had the opportunity to go by the back kick, and he always seems to stop and check. But as I say, when you watch the games back, the amount of guys sometimes it's been on him, 3, sometimes even 4, have been marked on him because they know that the guy is dangerous. So for me, see, even these next 3 Champions League games, whilst we don't maybe have had a lot of hope as in results.
Oh, I think he's just been cut off there.
I heard them saying that we had 3 games left. Have we not got 4?
We've got 4, aye.
Yeah, okay,
aye.
That's fine.
But
just in case I was going.
But Boystar makes some good points. I've said before, Jesse, when we're playing the sort of midfield, when it's Kamara, Jack, Lundstrom and that, and Davis, we've not got a creative player in there in Kamara. We've not got that creative player. Tillman and Lawrence are our creative players. Kent's a creative player, and Matondo and Wright's meant to fall into that category of being a creative player. So when we have not played Kent, when we have not played Wright or Matondo, and Tillman has been missing, and obviously Lawrence has been injured, the burden has fallen onto one man. And as Boystar says, we've watched it in the league, when they double up on them or treble up on them, then that's them trying to take your creative player out to play. And they wonder we struggle at times because we've got nobody else to go and open up teams.
Yeah, and we've seen that for a number of seasons now, at least the last 2, and particularly in the last 12 months, players have doubled up and even treble upped on him sometimes. And it's frustrating. We say that he's one-dimensional. I don't think he is one-dimensional. I think he is a very creative player. However, teams, particularly domestically, have figured out and appreciate the threat that he brings, and that in turn means they mark him and deal with him accordingly, and it becomes harder for us. If you then look across our team, where particularly last season we weren't scoring goals from midfield, we were relying really heavily on Alfredo when he was fit and Tav on the right back. Take those 2 out, in which obviously we lost Alfredo, the goals start to dry up. If they're keeping Kent out of the game, it's really hard for the rest of the team to be creative. I feel like we have got more creativity now this season, Southside, but not when we play that midfield that you just mentioned, which is that side-to-side lethargic play. And we need players in there like a Lowry or a Tillman or a Hadji to actually bring it to life. And that's where we still miss Hadji.
Right, okay. That's a good. Just positive, spot on. Juicy, I think we've been joined by Robert. How you doing, Robert?
Even Southside, Juicy, and the legend is Bridgeman. How you doing, guys? Okay?
Aye, good, mate, good. I think maybe I was just going to say before you say it, because I think people will be screaming at the radio. Obviously, we could make money on Lundstrom before people are screaming at me. But Robert, that aside, I don't know if you heard the start, but I'm not trying to sell all my players, but obviously when you're looking at the player trading model, and as we were saying, Robert, see, like, I know I said something there, I'll just bring you in before you maybe had a point. When I'm saying I hope boys like Charlie McCann and Leon King and obviously Lowry, I'd love to see them sort of spend the next 5 years at Ibrox. I know they'll get bit part playing time this year, and hopefully next year they can kick in. And I'm hoping to see them in a Rangers jersey for a few years and let's see them develop. And then, because they'll all have dreams of going playing in the Premiership or abroad maybe, but we'd love to see them, Robert, in time getting at least 3 seasons or something. Let's see them win trophies and play for the Glasgow Rangers.
Listen, that's what we all hope for, right? But let's be honest here. If these 3 boys can get in the Rangers team this season or whatever and play a few games, and Rangers get offered ridiculous money like 15, 20 million pounds, you can't knock that back, right? Because look at Nathan Patterson, he couldn't get in our team for James Tavernier, right? And we get 12 million, going up to 16 million. And don't get me wrong, until we get that injury the other day, Patterson, the Everton fans are starting to rave about him. So I know a lot of Rangers fans will say, well, we couldn't have sold him, and that's understandable. But at the end of the day, if you get offered ridiculous money, like we did with Calvin Bassey, I'll be honest with you, Southside, I'm gutted. I'm absolutely heartbroken because see at the end of last season, I was so proud of my team getting to Europa League final and going 120 minutes after we beat Braga against Celtic in the semi-final, and we go to the Europa League final, 120 minutes, lost in penalties, and then we played Hearts in the Scottish Cup, 120 minutes. And I was so looking forward to this season because I thought my team looked really fit, they looked really up for it, and look what's happened. The Heart's been ripped out my team because of the loss of Joe Aribo, which we couldn't help because there's a £10 million clause. Big Bassey, I would wish the club would say, no, you're staying for another year, but there you go, it was good money. And then Big Balogun, I don't really like going about that one because I'm still so angry. Let Big Balogun go, and yet we keep that injury-prone shooter. We signed him, never feel signed him. But anyway, I'm not going to go on a rant. I'm not going to go on a rant. But
no, they've left, Robert. I mean, Balogun only played the same amount of games as Bassey. We're in a programme now where we're playing 3 games a week, and he couldn't play 3 games a week. We know he couldn't.
Right.
So, but as much as he done well for us, it's about looking. We've got to try and look forward now, haven't we? We've got to look at moving forward, and the 3 young boys are at the moment. I mean, I could give you a couple. I mean, some of the boys aren't ready. We know that, but I think, Robert, I was critical last year. Big Al was on, yourself was maybe on, Alex Kelly was on. Get the young boys in. I think it was still a bit early, but they're starting to mature again, and they're training all the time with the first team, and we've got to get them in that first team at Ibrox against teams like Livingston, St Mirren's and Dundee United and that. We've got to try and get them into the team, because if the players in front of them, the so-called stars, Kamaras and Jackson, aren't they doing it, then we should be able to play 1 or 2 of them at times in that team. We've got to get them into that team, Robert.
Yeah, listen, Southside, I totally
agree. They'll not go for big money. They'll not go for the big
money.
I
know, listen, I totally agree with you. And there's nothing better than seeing a young Barry Ferguson, a young Derek Ferguson, and a Ian Durant coming through an Alan Hunt. That makes us full of pride, and we see that they players coming through and getting into our first team. But can I be totally honest with you? See, this moment, we have to start winning trophies. See all this garbage that we won the league, we won 55, that's it, we've done our job, we won the Scottish Cup, we go to Europa League final, which was, getting to that Europa League final was fantastic, was amazing, outstanding, but come on, we need to start winning trophies. And the only thing I would say about the young boys, and I was at the game last Saturday against Dundee United, And I'll be honest with you, and I'm going to, you'll shoot me down the flames here. Young King and young McCann, who I think are great prospects like Lowry, and they'll do great. I didn't think they'd great games. I thought they'd done okay. But young King get turned to twice in the first half, if you remember. And the young boy McCann shot into thin air twice. He missed. Now, if that been like young King, for instance, if that been James Sands, he'd be getting slaughtered on this programme for his performance. So I'm sorry. I want to see young boys coming into the team and doing well, but they've got to be ready. And I don't know. The way Rangers are playing now, they're not playing well at all. Let's be honest about it. So I think they're throwing the boys in at the deep end. That's only my opinion. I think they're throwing them in at the wrong time.
We could be. But, see, I'm not talking about the European games, but we could be, but we've got to try and get them some type of league games, because if you've got a Glenn Kamara out there that's right half for him, or you've got a Ryan Jack that looks like he's plodding about and he's not hit a batter for him, we've got to try and blood these players into the Team Blue Star, because at the end of the day, they're the young boys that are busting for a jersey, and I think I can take them making the odd mistake. The Queen of the South turned the young boy king, and not one of the pings, but it's going to happen because he's a young boy. He will make the odd mistake. He's not perfect. We've got main players out there making mistakes, but it's giving them time and letting them try and flourish at Ibrox into it, and trying to just get them in that team and give them that bit more experience.
Absolutely, Southside, and Robert's perfectly correct in what he's saying. You said it yourself, you're Queen of the South. I was alarmed, and that's the word I'd use. I was alarmed at how poor I thought the so-called younger ones that were on. I thought they would have went out and tried to bust a gut and run amok, and I'm not saying they didn't try, but certainly in the Dundee United game, McCann in the first half, I thought, did pretty good. Yes, he ballooned a couple out of the bar, but if you're going to that extent, so did Arfield. Arfield had two easier chances than what flipping McCann did. So you've got to balance it up. And Robert's probably right. They have been thrown in at the deep end where teams playing crap, and they have been playing crap. We can't take that away from them. But you're right in what you're saying, Southside. You've got to find the right balance at the right time. And at the moment, they won the game. I keep saying it. Yes, they played poor. We won the game. They could have blew it, but they didn't. They won the game. So if you can't bring in the odd one or two now and again, especially when it's against teams at the lower end of our league, that comes back to the same point that we've all been blasting on about for the start of the season. It's because the team's been playing so poor. You go back to what you were saying there about Bassi and Aribo. Yes, the two of them played well, but there was plenty of games, especially Aribo, absolutely plenty of games last season where he was getting games every week when he was really, really poor. And as we all know, Bassi started after the first half of the season. He was flipping, let's be truthful, he was pathetic. We were slaughtering him.
Blue Star.
So sometimes you've got to let a player play his way into a game and play into a team.
Would it be fair to say we flung Big Bassi into the deep end because we flung him in at centre-back? You know what I mean?
Without a doubt.
Sometimes these players will flourish. You mean Bridge, obviously. I think Leon King's got the hardest job because it's a centre-back, right? I think the two toughest positions to play at Glasgow Rangers is goalkeeper and centre-forward. That's just my own opinion, where you try and make your name, obviously, right? You can come into midfield, get game time, eventually get into it. But I think centre-back Bridge for the young boy, but as much game time as he gets, I'm delighted, because hopefully in time he will make it at Glasgow Rangers as a regular in time. But it's one of the hardest positions to fill in, eh? Would you not agree?
I would agree in one thing. Centre half is the most crucial position for Rangers players. It's murder. We don't have a settled defence properly. Not for a wee while, you know. Last season we had a really well settled defence, and it kind of worked a treat for us, getting us right all the way through to the final. Now we just seem to be leaking goals. Just dreadful. Sometimes just dreadful performances. However, we're not stupid. We're under no illusions that the ones that we've got just aren't good enough. And I've said it, verbally saying it, and there's other people said it too. We need to get someone that can play in a certain position, which is the left side of central defence, and not someone with a right-footed, somebody that's left-footed and a proper centre half. Unfortunately, our big centre half, Helander, is injured and might never play for us again because of the injury. I think it's the hope of Rangers that they must start thinking that January we've got to go and get a proper centre half to team up with the rest of the defenders, because your Tav's your Tav, Barisic is Barisic, and Big Golson's Golson. Together they're no bad. They need that one person that will just fill in nicely and just kill people. That's all I want. Just stop them dead. That's what I need. Sorry, I rant on about it, and I do apologise. Robert, forgive me, Robert.
No, you're all right.
You're brilliant, Fred. Brilliant, Fred. Can I say something outside?
Quickly, because we've got other people in, but
just what Fred was saying there, Fred, you know what? You've been saying it for the last 2 or 3 years, pal, and you're totally 100%. I want at the back, I want a big Marvin Andrews type player, 6'5", who'll header everything out that boat. He might not be the greatest on the ground, and that's a shame what happened to Big Chatty because of that injury, etc., because he might have done it. But that's what I want in defence. I want a bit of strength, and that's what I was brought up watching Rangers, guys with strength and ability, and that's what I want in my team. And we've lost that. We don't have that anymore.
I know, that's the thing. But, Robert, I think we've all noticed that. We have lost a bit of physicality at the moment. We'll only wait and see when Ben Davies comes in and see if he's got any physicality about him. Jussie, the way we've done with a couple of the young boys, we've got Weston and Cole McKinnon, Cole McKinnon's quite highly rated. He's getting a lot of talk about him. I think they two are at Partick Thistle, and obviously the boy Mail we loaned out to Kilmarnock. So obviously doing that this year, getting them game time, because I believe that when you play for the first team, you can only play 5 or 6 times, and then I believe you can't go back and play for the B team, which then certainly isolates them for playing, so they need to try and get back in the first team. So I think with a chance, I'm not saying they'll make it, but the Weston, the Cole McKinnon, and obviously the boy Mail, obviously we've done that for a reason, to get them more experience and hopefully maybe see them come back into the squad next season and see what they've got to offer.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that the club's got to manage with regards to that rule that you just mentioned there. But McKinnon's looked decent this season for the B team. Saw him in the matches in Europe recently, which I think the B team has played well in both of those games. Even in the defeat to Ajax, I thought they looked good, and he looked good in particular. But I think in terms of the talent that we've got, we've seen what we've got in that B team, and we know that they're going to get opportunities. Look, King, we were just talking about King there with Bridgeman. I think King is going to be busy coming up because he's probably, unless Ben Davies gets a resurrection Lazarus last minute, King is probably going to be playing at Anfield with Sands being suspended. So we're going to get to see him in one of the most difficult situations.
I think Ben Davies might play, Jussie. That's just my opinion. Don't know if we'll see.
So, can I come in there?
Aye.
Here's a big enigma for me. I can't get my head around the fact, irrespective of the so-called price tag on the guy, if Ben Davies has been on our bench for 3 or 4 games now, how on earth, and we're all saying it, not just as fans, but as so-called connoisseurs of our team, and we're watching a guy coming in who's hardly kicked a ball for us at all in young King. Yet he was willing to throw him in at right back and then bring him into centre of defence. Yet Ben Davies costs $4 million or whatever he cost. He's sitting on the bench and he's never so much as had a run out. I can't get my head around that. Southside.
Can I answer that then?
When you go.
This is only my theory, right? It might be totally wrong, which is most of the time on here when I'm talking. But it might have been, I know he flung a young boy in, it surprised me, right? Is it a case of Ben Davies wasn't up to fitness, as in match fitness, right? And I know he's on the bench, right? Now, I don't know why, because you'd think he would just maybe even stick another young boy on the bench for experience, because he's obviously got him on there with the intentions, in my eyes, because he didn't bring him on at all, right? Is it a case he didn't want to go in case he'd an absolute howler? And then people go, you paid $4 million for him, and he's just been absolutely exposed out in that park.
No,
and if
no
the
chance.
young boy,
No chance outside.
if the young boy made a mistake, is he thinking, well, he's a young boy and I'll get away with it?
No,
that's only my theory.
I know, and listen, I get it. I've asked myself the same thing.
It's the only thing I can think of, Blue Star, because it costs £4 million.
That's the point, Southside, because if that was the case, then he could be ruining a young boy's career before it's even kicked off. And he's a Dutchman. He's a continental. They don't think that way. Therefore, the very fact our club went out and spent that fee on him, you're saying to yourself, he's obviously had bounce games. We know he played the games behind closed doors. Alfie was never near match fit. He never had the injury that anything like what Alfie had. He was willing to push Alfie on a couple of games. So it contradicts everything, anything that we think of. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't add up. It does not add up. He would have brought him on at some point, and he hasn't done that. What is the reason? And then when he's asked the question, he takes offence to the guy that asked him. I just can't get my head around it. I really can't.
No, I know. I think that's Bridge. I think that's what's. But we're asking, like Blue Star says, I've always said, if you're on the bench, then you should be fit enough to come on the park. And would you try to make a point? Would you maybe try to make a point that he was putting King on before him because maybe he doesn't fancy him, Blue Star, but it's a lot of money to spend on a player if he doesn't fancy him, innit?
Well, see if it's right and he doesn't fancy him, Southside and Bridge, then there's something categorically real worse, and we don't like thinking that way. But if our manager's purposely not playing that guy because he doesn't fancy him, then the sod falls on either himself or on Ross Wilson, because we can't outlay that kind of fee for somebody that our manager's no interested in putting on the park. That makes it all the more bewildering. It just doesn't add up. There's something stinkingly wrong there. There has to be. If he's on that bench for 2, and it wasn't just he was out the blue and he was on the bench. He was on the bench there for 3 games, maybe even 4, and he's not even so much as walked onto the park. There's something badly wrong there. There has to be.
Bridge, you think he'd be busting to get on and play for the Glasgow Rangers after coming up and signing? You didn't come up and sign for nothing. You obviously come up knowing that he was going to get game time and play, getting the chance of playing European football and compete for league titles and cups.
Yeah, you do expect it, you know. I think he's played one game at Ibrox, but I don't know if it was a friendly or not. Maybe I not got the whole game, but he certainly came on and played and looked very good. I can't remember what game it was, so forgive me, my memory's knackered, shot to pieces. But I believe sincerely that I would take Gio, and I absolutely love Gio. I would take him all the way on that. The way he spoke about just bringing him in and why you put him. Somebody said to him, why are you not playing him? Well, okay, all of us who played football and go and see football, particularly Rangers, would say that if the bench, if anybody's on the bench, they get a good chance of coming on, then they're fit to play. And here we have it. Gio's saying, well, they're really going to play him. But he's been on the bench 3 times, 3 games running. Some not quite right there. So I would expect something to happen. And what you said is, Southside, is that you think he's going to play. Well, I do as well. I think he'll play. With a good chance he'll get a game somewhere or come on as a substitute, particularly against Liverpool. And that's what I'd like to see. As soon as possible, get him on the park.
Robert, sorry, I actually asked you a question when you came on the show. Did you actually have a question for us all when you phoned up?
Yeah, I did actually. I was the reason I was coming on, right? I'm not trying to get myself wound up here, right? And it was to Goosey. Goosey, how you doing? Okay, pal?
Very good, my friend. Very good. How are you?
Good. Goosey, I love listening to you, right, pal? But just a couple of wee things you said that kind of it got me going a bit, and I thought, typical, that's the way Rangers fans think, right? Some, well, not all Rangers fans, but some is, right? So, Goosey, you said Glenn Kamara, we know he's not been playing good, right? We know he's not been playing good, but he is a good player, right? The semi-final against Leipzig proved it when he scored that goal, right? and you think to yourself, oh, we should get 15, 20 million pounds for him after playing that semi-final and doing that, right? But then you turned around and you said, oh, we're not going to get that kind of money, so we get 5 million plus, we're doing well. No, I'm sorry. This is the thing about my club, and I'm going to compare my club to that lot across the East End of Glasgow. See, then they're talking now about getting 15 to 20 million pounds for that O'Reilly, who's done nothing. Let's be honest about it. All right, he might have won a championship in Scotland, but he's done nothing. So we're going to accept £5 million plus for Glenn Kamara. And then, Juicy, you also said, oh, Alfredo Morelos costing £1 million, but we're not going to lose out in anything. Do you know what we've lost out there, Juicy? £16 million, which Nice offered. So we have lost out, and this is the thing that gets me about my club. Why are we accepting the scraps, and yet that lot on the other side of the city can get £14 million for Ayer, who'd less than a year left in his contract, the same with that Edward and that Ryan Christie, 3 months left in his contract, and they get £2.5 million, plus when Bournemouth come up, they get another £2.5 million. What is it with my club? Why are we accepting, apart from Big Bassy, why are we accepting the scraps? I don't get it.
Can I reply to that one, Southside?
I can say your piece before the break.
First of all, I'm loving the passion, my friend Robert. You're right to not. That's what I was suggesting. I'm not undervaluing Kamara. I'm just thinking that ahead, and we like to sometimes compare with other clubs and see what else is happening in the market. You're right. But I've all last year players go for in reality versus what I thought they might have been worth. Sometimes you have to meet in the middle, and I appreciate that. But remember, tomorrow, Robert, we're going to make fantastic money, whatever we get, and it will be in the middle.
Juicy, sorry. Listen, see if you want to log off and log back in. It's your internet, mate. You're breaking up, and it's hard to hear you. All right. Robert, I think what he was trying to say, and I said it as well earlier, I think a season or two ago, if we'd sold Alfie, we would have got decent money. I don't mind Alfie leaving for virtually nothing if that's the case, if he doesn't re-sign, Robert. I mean, he cost us £1 million, and I think he's done well by us. I'd love him to maybe sign on, and we might get something from a following season, or if he does want to go. Kent's a different kettle of fish. I think we paid decent money for him, and unfortunately, we've not managed to get him to re-sign. And I know they've got silly money, but I don't really pay much attention, Robert. You hear it and it gets waffled about how much they got, but did they really get that amount? Kamara, for me, if Kamara is worth money, he just has to get his form back. And if a club's willing to come in for him, I'm sure the club will have a market value for him, you know?
Yeah, but Southside, answering this, right, it's okay you saying, right, did they really get this money for that player? But they probably did. Let's know. We need to stop beating about the bush and saying things like that, right?
But we can't keep comparing. We can't keep comparing.
How no comparing? That's your rivals.
Well,
how no? You've got to compare that. That's your right. It's no Aberdeen. It's no Hearts. It's no Hibs. You've got to compare with a team that's the only one team that can stop you. Say 1 in 56 and 1 in trebles, etc. Scottish Cup. So tell me this, Southside.
Hold on. I'll tell you then. The only thing I think it stops us from winning it is us not buying properly, our players not getting out there and playing, and not having a decent manager.
And sell players in the cheap. Sell players. We've done it. We've done it for years.
We've done it in the past, We've had fire.
We're still doing it. We're still doing. We're going to let Kamara and we're going to let Alfredo go for nothing. And we're going to probably let Kent go for £5 or £6 million and Barisic or 1 or 2. And yet, I'm sorry, I'm fed up, and it all brings it back down. Answer me this, and I know I'm going off the scale here, because I want to get my point in. See that Ross Wilson, can you explain to me, Southside, how that's still in a job, how that thing is still in a job, when all the mistakes he's made, all the bad buys he's made, for every basher you get 5 or 6 bad players, and he's still in a job, and that's what I'm having a vote this present Rangers board Why are they allowing this to happen? Why are they not doing something about it? Oh no, Ross Wilson's doing a great job. Seriously, my club's going back the way, and that we should be going forward. Yes, that Europa League final, we should be going forward, but my club seems to be going back the way, and I cannot, and I will not accept it. And I pay my money like other Rangers fans. I pay my shares, I pay whatever, and I'll gladly give my club whatever they ask me to give. I'll give it. But I'm sorry, I am not accepting my club's going back the way. It's not on, and it's time for change to the top right down to the bottom. It's time, Rangers Football Club, it's time for change.
I think we've all got our grievances with certain players, Robert. I think we've got to give probably Yilmaz, they've scouted him, and I think if he gets a chance in the team in time, we've got to look for him to be a success. Roof was a success to a point, but now he's out injured. Probably for the short period of time, if you look at goals per games, he's been a success. But we needed him for a UEFA final, as also Alfie been out injured, played him too many times. I think we went to the well, Robert, even under Stevie G. We said that we went to the well too many times with so many players, and we're doing it again. We're actually doing it again. Recruitment, Bridge, I think we can see that there's flaws in it for certain players, but we've got to give them a chance. We've signed about 7 players, and we've only really seen Lawrence sort of in patches, Tillman in patches. Cholak's the only one really that's come in and done exactly what we wanted them to do, with score goals.
Yeah, plus you could say what he wanted to do as well, is to go in and score goals. I think there's a sort of disconnect somewhere along the line between, well, it seems like to me anyway, between the Ross Wilson position, our managing director's position, and our manager's position. So there's 3 heads going on in there. Maybe they're not going on, maybe that's the problem. But there seems to be a lack of communication from the top to the bottom. And that's the area we need to get it sorted, in my opinion, to allow Rangers to be, shall we, striding forward. I mean, Robert's right, because people who are passionate, you get upset dead easy with this nonsense that's going on. There's something going on, and it's not good for the football. And we need to get that turned around and make things happen. And when we do things, but it's good to be fit for the football. We need the football side of our club to be absolutely the way we want it to be. And at the moment, it's not.
Well, if you guys get yourself on mute, we're going to have a tune. We've got to that time of the evening. We'll have a wee chat when we come back.
Why don't you give us a call on 0141 356 1972? It's your show, it's your platform. Let's hear from you.
Hi, there was I've just come back and I was just thinking there was a survey done, guys. I don't know if you've heard about it. It was called the Broomloan Collective Fan Survey, and basically it was a survey done for the Napoli tickets for travelling when Rangers are going to see Napoli, and basically you just had to give your name and your season ticket number. So we were asked if we were still prepared to travel, because obviously there's no refundable for the flights and our hotel accommodation. So to cut a long story short, they've done a survey and 80% of the people have said that they're going to travel. 10% said they won't travel, and another 10% are waiting to see if we're going to get the go-ahead for UEFA. So that's going to get put in front of the board to Stuart Robertson and also to the SLO. And also it's getting forwarded to FSE, and they're going to take it to UEFA in the hope that Napoli might overturn their decision and let the supporters travel, Juicy. So we're hoping that might happen.
Oh, that'd be fantastic for all those away fans wanting to travel. And, we know that UEFA's made the decision that they've made. Difficult one for us to take as fans. It would just be nice to have another European adventure for all the away fans, and hopefully they can come to some kind of agreement Southside.
Aye, well, it'd be good, Blue Star. I think we're hoping that maybe Napoli will maybe think, well, we'll let them in. I don't think we're going to do too much damage to them in this group, are we? So you'd like to think by the time it's the fifth game that they might have a change of heart, and hopefully UEFA might overturn their decision.
You would like to think so, but I hate to say it, guys. When it comes to UEFA, they look upon our club, especially in Scotland. They look upon our club. They can basically say and do what they want. The only time I know ever, and I will say, and I'm 60 odds, ever that we've went against a UEFA decision was when we played in Sanctuary of Her Majesty. I can't think of another instance. Any fine or anything, we've always had to pay it for whatever reason. So what it does show you there, Southside, and it's our fans are majestic and we all know that. What it does show you is the very fact that our fans are still willing to go, even although if they knew they weren't going to get into the game. That just speaks volumes. The money that our fans spend going to watch your team is absolutely incredible. I don't think you've got fans anywhere else in the world that can travel in the numbers the way our fans would, especially if they know they've got a chance of getting into games. It's incredible, but UEFA are a totally different entity altogether, especially when it comes to Glasgow Rangers, and we all know that.
Robert, they overturned it for Leon. Yes, FSE went and managed to get it returned at Blue Star, so they did. But Robert, as you say, everything's all pre-booked. I'll come on to CTM in a minute because I know Rangers have binned them, but I believe, but it's the expense that everybody's out, Robert, to go and follow Glasgow Rangers abroad. You know yourself, you've done a trip to yourself and you also went to Seville, but it's just the outlay for everybody, so we're hoping that we'll maybe get to travel.
Listen, Southside, no matter what they say, what UEFA say and all that, now you go everywhere with Rangers. Brilliant, mate, good on you. Love you for that, right? But you know what? See the Rangers fans, no matter what. Now, in 2008, when we got to your UEFA Cup final in Manchester, now, we're in the Champions League, if you remember, and I was in Barcelona when we get beat 2-0. Remember, they gave it Ibrox to do with them, and then we went to Barcelona and we get beat 2-0. I was in that stadium, and I was sitting in the Barcelona end with my son, my sister-in-law, who stayed there, got his tickets. But you know what? Say Rangers get 5,000 tickets for that Nou Camp Stadium. I've seen at least 25,000 Rangers fans in that stadium, and that'll be the same. See, we play Napoli, whether we're out the Champions League, whether we're out and we don't get a point, we don't even score a goal. That's what the Rangers fans do. That's why they're the best and the most loyal fans in the world, and no other team can compete with us. See, we go to Napoli and we're out the Champions League, you'll still find about 20,000 Rangers fans. Just like when we go to Liverpool next Tuesday, there's only maybe 2,500 get tickets, but it'll be 25,000 Rangers fans down in Liverpool, and that's what makes us the number one. That's what makes us special, and that's what I love about my club, and that's what I love about the Rangers fans. Simply the best South Side. You've got to agree, you know.
Oh, yeah, we all make sacrifices to go and watch the Rangers.
And
at the end of the day, we're all booked and we're all going to be gone. And in the survey that they done, as I said, it was only out of 870 people, but 80% is saying that 770 at the moment are still travelling. And I know a lot of the boys that are still going, and there's a few others are still going to go, but we're just hoping that maybe something, they'll see the light and maybe change the decision. Because at the end of the day, we're just wanting to go and watch a game of football and watch Glasgow Rangers in the Champions League bridge, and that's what matters. We love to see them at Ibrox, but when you're shelled out a lot of money and you're having to do it early because of the flight situations, and they just start jumping the minute you start going onto the site to book it bridge. So all we're hoping is they'll let us go and travel.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason for no wanting Rangers fans there is just ludicrous. They've made the decision to postpone the game by one night, to put the game back one night, and don't allow the fans in, the German travelling fans, and just stop them travelling because they were worried about interruptions to the Italian fans, but because they didn't want interruptions to the shall we say, the Queen's funeral in any way, shape or form, the morning of it. They made it right or wrong. That's their decision. They made it, but they didn't need to say let's do it. Don't let any fans in for travelling fans for a Rangers game. They think it's only fair. Well, it's no fair. It's an entirely different game. It's another leg. And the Queen's funeral thing's all gone. That issue's gone by. That was a sort of respect type thing they made the decision for. Maybe they'd been better just to postpone that game entirely for a week and then bounce everything back again. Probably wouldn't do that. So the Rangers fans are going to get punished. And that's what it feels like to me. I don't go. Everybody knows I feel too old anyway to be going travelling to see the Rangers. But I do think if they're making decisions like that, they're absolutely stupid decisions. And there's why would they want to stop more fans? So they stopped the Italian fans from coming over, and why do they want to stop any Scottish fans from going over to see the Rangers or any other nationality to see the Rangers? It's just nonsense to me. It's just utter nonsense. Best supported club in the world, without a doubt.
It's not that they can really enforce this travelling. It's just the fact that a lot of us shelled out money, and it's basically a 3-day trip. So the thing is, you'll just go. There's no point in no going, and we'll see what happens. But it was just something that I was hoping that when we took part in the survey, that might go overturned in time. The other thing, since you guys are on, and I know Robert and Blue Star, you are at that sort of age as well, and I'm at the same age as you, I was thinking along the lines of, I heard Stuart Roberts, and this is what annoys me about the club. We asked for transparency, we asked to be kept updated. Now, I was at the last AGM when safe standing was asked, right? Now, I wasn't in favour of turning Ibrox back into standing because the stadium got built for the reason that it got built after the disaster and that, right? And Willie Waddle went on and said, it'll not happen again, we'll be all seated, and we've done it. I come round to the fact that you could put safe standing in, but Stuart Robertson made a comment that the support doesn't want it. Now, that's not true, because that was asked at the last AGM, and at the end of the conversation, when it came up about the disabled people, he said, well, that will take priority over safe standing. I get that. I'm 100% forward with that. If they want to sort out the table section as soon as, I'm all for that. But to say that the support don't want it now, just the other day, I just can't get my head around that at all, because the support does want it. A section of the support want it at Ibrox. So, would you guys be in favour of it? I'll start with Robert. Right, Blue Star?
Absolutely.
Do you see a problem with it?
No.
So, I mean, it's something.
Can I come in on that?
Yes, Bridge.
Personally speaking, now, and remember, I'm an old man, a really old man. I was at the disaster game, and I wouldn't want to see anything like that again anywhere. Never mind, just the Ibrox. So I personally wouldn't like to see them with standing. Although stupidly, there's loads of them stand up. Shall we say the coat and rear when I sit. There's loads of them stand up for a number of times, and there's all arguments every week, But seriously, a safety perspective, we must be, to me, 100% safety. Must be 100% safety. That's the way I feel. Sorry, guys.
No,
can I come in there?
I'll just
on
say
that, and I totally agree with Bridge. My old man was at the Ibrox disaster, and he's seen a lot of tragedy. And the bottom line is, Nenny is obviously we would all concur in what Bridge said there, but, and it's a big but, he put the point in that where he is in the Copeland, that they all stand. I'll tell you this, it doesn't matter where you are in the ground, 90% of the crowd, in fact, I'd go higher than that, 99% of the crowd all stand as soon as there's a goal scored. So for me, that is dangerous, very much so, because as I say, I've had a stroke and I've been at Ibrox many's a time recently, and whenever there's a goal scored and you day stand, it's far easier to fall forward and snap your legs because of the seat backing in front of you. So if it's perfectly an area for safe standing, then there's absolutely no danger of that. It's far more dangerous as Ibrox is now when folk are standing at goals for a surge. And if one person goes forward, they're badly injured. That's fact. So if it's perfectly legal and it was a proper standing area, no, there's no danger whatsoever. And on that, Southside, I'd like your views on this. You've been to guns all over the world, all over Britain, etc. When it comes to, you look at the actual basis of your ground, you've got the four stones. What I can't get my head around is, bar the opening where the gates are, whether it's a band coming in, whether it's a cannon coming in, call it what you will. See the other three corners. Yes, we've got the screens up. Below those screens, I know that you've got the bit for the opposing fans at odds 750. But those whole four corners, if they were filled in and perfectly seated, I'm sure I read they were talking about they could get as many as 15,000 upwards. Now, you add that onto your crowd now, that's massive. Now, that's for those four corners. That's only taking in three. That wasn't adding in the fourth, because they need to keep one opening. There has to be a model surely proposed that those corners can be filled in, because they're serving no purpose whatsoever. I would rather see more fans in there as four corners, as three corners. I can't get my head around the fact that they've not even attempted. We know there's been murmurs every now and again about remodelling, but they've talked about lowering the surface, putting more seats around the front. We know that was a goer. I don't know what happened there. But the three corners south side, you've been to grounds everywhere else. It makes more sense. It's a total cauldron if your four corners have fans in it. And if our fans were in the other three corners, our ground would be louder than anywhere else in Britain. So I don't know why they've not looked at that. Just thought you wanted your thoughts on that.
You're talking about the two gates beside each end of the enclosure. You're talking about filling them in. Aye. I remember when I was doing the Millennium Stadium, and when I was doing there visiting it, the stone lifted up, right? They let
them underneath, yeah.
They all come underneath, and all the trucks were coming in, because the monster trucks were going in, and they were taking all the turf out, putting onto the pallets, and they were explaining that gets took away, and it'll just get put in, to be heat and all that, and then they can come back and relay it. But to see them lift a whole stand up and see all the trucks come in and all that, and you're like, wow, obviously it was built recently, the Millennium, built for the Millennium, wasn't it? So, but you could maybe do something like that. But I think you've got at least things for emergency services and stuff to come in. I believe that would probably be the case.
Can I come in now?
Yeah, on you go, Bridge.
The two ends that you're speaking about, the stairways up to the main big, what do you call it, stand at the top? Oh my God, the top one.
The club deck.
Club deck. the stairways up there at the sides, they're what's stopping anything going on there. And I've said this about 4 or 5 years ago, that I would love Rangers to re-engineer those stairways. I'm not saying take them away. They'll probably move them, probably get rid of them and put stuff in. They should be putting lifts and what do you call them, escalators in there, because they can do it in the town with the cinemas. There's no problem doing that there. But they'd be a lot less bulky. That would give you the chance to move things in. And yet the right
good point, Brett.
At the bottom,
good point.
At the bottom there, they could take the bottom part and lift it up, and somewhere where the seats are, just lift it up and that lets the traffic in when it's necessary. I think they should do a re-engineering of that there, and and I kind of say in the main stand. If you ever go into you probably do. When you go in the main stand and you're making your way up to the main stand, I reckon there's maybe 100 steps to that. I think that's terrible asking fans to walk up these steps nowadays. There should be.
Can I come in?
Right, so Robert.
Bridgeman, see what you're just saying. Now I've got a heart condition, as you know. I climb these stairs every game. I've got a pass to go up the lift, and I've stopped my pass because somebody told me if you don't get through the turnstiles, it doesn't count on your mileage, right? So I've stopped my pass, and I got up these stairs, 115 stairs up to the club deck. That's how sad I am. I've actually counted them, right? And I got up these stairs. And I agree with you, Brisman. They need to change. And I don't mind climbing these stairs because I want to see my team and I want to see my team winning. But see what Blue Star said there. Could you imagine, guys, think about it. Think about the Leipzig game. The atmosphere was amazing. Leeds United, Dynamo Kiev in the past, 1987 Dynamo Kiev, Leeds United in 1992. Think about it, guys. Could you imagine filling these 4 corners in? Now, I thought we could only maybe fill 2 corners in between the Broomloan and the Govan and the Copeland. But could you imagine filling the corners in and taking that crowd up to, I don't know what, nearly 60,000? The atmosphere now is electric. Could you imagine filling the corners in where it'd be light? Honestly, I would love that, and I hope to see that in my lifetime. I hope Rangers can remodel Ibrox Stadium. It's a beautiful arena as it is now, but I would love to see them take it up and get their fans in that stadium, because we've got 10,000, at least 10,000 on that waiting list, and I'd like to see the 10,000 get in.
There's the thing, we're always getting dealt about finance, right? So see if they were filled in.
I think Jim's here. Jim's on the line. He's been waiting to come in. Pal, give me a wee second. Jim, how you doing, pal? Sorry about that.
Hey, you don't have to wait for me, bro. Sorry about that.
You're all right. Always welcome. How you doing, pal?
Fantastic. Just the usual crap about it. I was talking to folks about an hour ago. You were talking about the boy you wanted to sell, right? And so I didn't agree with that. And I disagree with the other thing with the standing arena. I don't agree with that either. The other standing arena we've got here was the old enclosure, if you remember back in the day.
It used to be, aye.
Yeah, so that's
Jim, I think that was a terracing accident, right, back in the day, and I think
listen here, by the way, here.
I've come round to the fact I think you could put safe standing in, but I think we could put it into a stand for people that want to go into that section. All it is a seat that folds up, and when you need to sit in it, you fold it down.
No,
they stand anyway. They stand anyway. We all stand at away games. We all stand at Hampden. The majority is whether you want to or no. So
the way fans get that wee corner, didn't they get that wee triangle. They all stand. None of them sit down. And I've been in a situation where we didn't take over seats. We were sitting in the bush area, and we've had the 500 quid for our seats, a European game. So we stand at a triangle at the Coleman Road stand, between the government stand and the Coleman Road stand. And somebody takes over seats. So we do argue it. So, and we do stand against the wall at the back, you know. But listen, there's not enough tickets and people to. Everybody wants to go to Ibrox, right? We all agree with that. I think the Bridgeman and Robert, who's still there, I suppose, he's a man. So We'll stand. We don't really care about standing, but give us a safe standing area. Listen, I was at the Ibis disaster game, unfortunately. Sadly, I was at that game, but I left the other area when the Edmonton Drive went that night, or that afternoon. It was a Sunday. But I'm not convinced with this, the whole place being standing. I don't mind the old enclosure. See the old enclosure in front of the main stand. Get that down to the bottom end there. Get that standing. No problem. And we triangles each side of the main stand, or the government stand, and that. We'll go with that. That area can be standing.
I think it'd be probably put it into the broom one, I would imagine, Jim. I think that's what the UB are looking for. At the end of the day, I mean, Ibrox, I know what you're saying, and I don't want to dismiss it or anything, but it was part of a terrace, and obviously they stand anyway, they jump about, and if it's possible in time, if Rangers would look at it, but I'd like to think they would do something for the disabled section first and foremost, structurally, engineerily, or whatever. I think we've been joined for Big Al, first of all, for Australia. How you doing, big man? Is it Bob Ger, maybe? Is it Bob Ger?
It is indeed. How you doing,
Bob
boys?
Ger. How you doing, pal?
Lads. That's all right. I've been listening to the show intently tonight, and some really good points. But, well, I'm boys, I've got about this bloody cough. Everybody's had it for 3 weeks. To me, the frustrating bit for me about Rangers was I thought the future of Rangers was going to be Nathan Patterson, Calvin Bassey, Joe Aribo, etc. And it's no pandu that way, obviously, because money dictates every big football club. We're not any different. But here's a question for you, John. It's stating the obvious. What tournaments are we out of this year? The Champions League. We knew that was I think we all knew that was going to be a step too far for us.
Technically,
at the end of the day,
we're no,
anything's possible in football. No, there's still 12 points to be played for you. You never know what can happen. But it kind of looks like it's a step too far for the squad. But at the end of the day, guys, give it a bit of time. I know we're not playing well, but we're in a period of transition. And these young boys will come through and they'll bear fruition. And here the gentleman quoting Celtic's business earlier on, and I've got to admit, he is right, like, that they did do the business better than what we did. And it's about time we stepped up to the mark with finances and all that way. Did you say these paltry sums of money that we think we're going to go over for our players? I mean, you look in retrospect what they got over. It's no right. That needs to be addressed. But enough with them. But we're in a period of transition, and we're just going to have to bear it out. But we're still in all the domestic competitions, and there's a lot to play for. So let's get the heat up, get on with it, and I understand your frustrations. But things will get better. Believe me, they will. I'm a Rangers fan like the rest of you. I've seen it all my days. I've seen the ups, seen the highs, seen the lows. We'll get better this year. I'm convinced of that because I've seen it in Eindhoven. That team played really well that night. If we can recapture a bit of form like that domestically, and in the Champions League or what we've got remaining, I believe the squad will come good. Then you go down the road of sacking managers and all this gear, and that doesn't work. Give the guy a chance, give the squad a chance, and I believe it'll bear fruition.
I think that's what we're all
think about all that.
I think that's what we're all looking for. I think we're looking for all the players to come back that's been missing and try and get themselves into the team. And then all we're looking for is to get 3 points on the board, especially in the league campaign, and then try and put on a performance. I think that's all we're looking for. And I'm hoping that when we get to Tynecastle on Saturday, that will be the case.
Well, that might be a starting point for us on Saturday. Let's hope so, eh?
Well,
we're going to hear there's bear pit at Tynecastle. We all know what it's going to be like. They're going to come at you and it's going to be physical and there's going to be yellow cards everywhere. It always is. And Rangers were always big enough and strong enough to overcome that sort of 8 times out of 10. Let's do it again on Saturday. Make this a starting point.
What's that?
Southside, Matt, the whole issue is with us all, and let's not kid ourselves on here. We've started the season, you can't even say stiff hits and starts. The only good thing is we're only 2 points ahead. We're only 2 points behind, and if we win on Saturday, we go a point in front. That's a miracle in my eyes, considering the way we've played, and that's the be all and end all. The only thing I would say, Southside, is this: we know. I thought we were far, far better off cash-wise, and I think there's no doubts about it. When the accounts come out, I think there's a few black holes going to be appearing. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think we all know that deep down. So on that, the very fact we've spent the best part of 12, 13 million, say, out of that 12, 13 million, the only ever present, the only guy, never mind Lawrence, the only guy that we can see that's been spent money on that's did really anything for us is the 1.8 million on the big striker. The rest of that 13 million, we have not seen anything. Yes, we've seen wee bits of Tillman, etc., but you can't take that into account. They haven't made it. Therefore, on that, the recruitment has to be 1,000 times better than what it's been, because we were told anything that was brought in had to be up to the ground running. In other words, they were able to get straight into our team. And we know, even if it goes for the rest of the season and they all came good, it hasn't happened when it should have happened when they come in. So on that basis, I would say the recruitment has to go up 2 and 3 levels, far, far more than what it has been. Because we can't, if our money's that tight, anything we do bring in, Southside, I'm sure you all agree, they've got to be able to hit the ground running, and it simply has not happened. As for injuries, I agree with you. You've guys like Hadji, etc., etc. I think he'll come back. I agree with Bridgeman. I think Hollander, sad to say, I don't see that ever happen. I think that guy's done. The same goes for Ruth, unfortunately. So it's onwards and upwards, and we've just got to hope, above all hope, that the guys that we have brought in can hit a better form, get for what somebody must have seen in them for buying them in the first place. As yet, we've seen nothing apart from Kolach. And on that, as I say, if we win on Saturday, we go tap. They don't need any more motivation. We don't need wee Robert coming on here every call and showing the passion that the wee guys got, the way we all feel. They players have got to show us that. They've got to show that they want to play for Glasgow Rangers. And as yet, I'm sorry, guys, we've had too many that have been playing one game here and the next 2 games have been duff. Let's be truthful. They have not been consistent. But in saying all that, they won on Saturday, we go tap. That's all the motivation they need. And let's hear and let's hope that they do it. Carry on, good work, Southside guys. Great show. And I need to go. Look out for the old dear bit.
Thanks for calling in, pal.
Thanks for having me on, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Juicy, I was thinking, John Bennett made the comment that we made a pathway for Patterson. We made that comment, and I was trying to think back how we made the pathway, and I was thinking, well, Polster, I think, was the only one I could remember that may have went in and played right back, because obviously we sent a young boy back that we brought in after Patterson left, Sikowski. Do you think with the squad we've got, like Arfield probably having to go, maybe even Ryan Jack having to leave the club, if Glenn Kamara got sold, is there a pathway then for young Charlie McCann to try and get figure in for next season onwards? Is there a pathway for young Lowry if he gets his sale back fit? Then is that something that we could be looking at? Is that a possibility, do you think?
I think there's a pathway this season, my friend. And I know we were saying that McCann and King weren't amazing in the match that they both started the other week, but that's only one game. We've seen what these guys have been doing in the B team. Not everyone is going to have a great game every game of the season. I think McCann and King will get more opportunities this season. Lowry, as we all know, was already in the first team squad when he unfortunately got the injury at the start of the season. Then he got the subsequent one when he was fighting his way back in the B team. So I think he's there or thereabouts. When we talk about the lack of creativity in the middle at the moment, these are the players that we want in there. It doesn't matter that they're young guys to me. If they're players that are of a creative state of mind, that's what we need in that team. We need to start making opportunities for our forward players, not passing it around side to side. I don't care if they're young players. get them in there and get them playing. They'll get opportunities this season, Southside. We've got 9 games alone in October. Now, I know a lot of those are massive, massive games. There'll be a League Cup game as well. And, these kids will get opportunities. And just to quantify one thing, if I may, before we went to the break, and I know I broke up earlier, so apologies for the juicy broadband. But, Robert, with regards to Kamara, I wasn't intentionally underselling him, my friend. It's just the fact that I am aware that our players don't always necessarily go for what we think they are worth and perhaps truly worth. But remember, we paid so little for him. We're going to get great money for him. And, if his time is up at our club, I wish him well, because he might not be having as good a season this season. But you're right, Robert. He's certainly done his turn for us in the past.
Right, guys, if you hold on a minute, Robert, I'll just bring in Big Al. How you doing, big man?
I'm great, man. Is this the Conference League, Europa League Conference League panel tonight? Obviously, you weren't having a great season and got relegated, you and Bridge.
Aye.
Just had to throw a couple of hand grenades. What was I going to say? You'll be lucky to recoup the 50 grand for Kamara. He's rank rotten.
We'll get money for him.
Aye. He's a great player.
Don't shout. Let him talk.
Robert, I'm just about to throw another hand grenade right at you straight away, Robert, so get your hands ready. You were talking about King. He got turned twice. Your love face with James Tavernier, he gets turned 2 or 3 times every game.
But did Keno score 6 goals in the Europa League? Many did King score? Who done it in Europa League for his last season? Who gets 20 goals and 20 assists? Come on, Al, come on. You weren't designing it right back, and you had a laugh. And you told me Stuart Monroe was a better right back than James Tavernier, and you had a laugh. And you did it like Joe Evo.
Robert, he's just flung you a fishing rod.
Oh, of course he has. I don't mind
man. Bang! A big trout. I've got a big trout there. But
I don't mind that.
Right, one at a time. Right, Big Al. On you go.
Bob Jared must be really, really handsome if he's getting compared to me.
What was that, Al?
I says, you must be really, really handsome, buddy, if you're getting compared to me.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say I was handsome. I've got a photo above the fire to keep the wind away. I've got a photo in the side of the house to keep burglars at bay. But no, like I say, that's what I believe, guys, that we are in a period of transition. It's obvious. We've just come out of a European final. We did win the league 2 years. We should have won the league last year. That's a galling bit about it. And we'll go through other results. You all know them all. But give it time. Give these young guys time. They can play all right. That young Lowry can really play. He's one of the hottest prospects in Scottish football. Give him time. Give him fit. Feed them into the team. But we're Rangers and we expect success instantly. And that's the way we've always been, and that's the way, fortunately and unfortunately, it will always be. But we'll see what comes. I'm hopeful. We're still in all the domestic competitions. Champions League, I believe, is a step too far. But again, like I said earlier, there's still 12 points to play for. I'd like to see us turning in a really, really good performance against one of these big guns. And Saturday, starting point, let's get the chin up, let's get into it and go for it again. We can be top. Whether we like all the criticism or the analysis, we can go top of that. So let's do it, Rangers.
I think that's what we're looking for, Big Al, on Saturday. No, but we always say we don't start well after a break, and it's proven we haven't, but we've really got to come out and get the 3 points against Hearts. I know it'll be a hard game, but you look at Hearts' team, you break it down, we should be good enough. We've got the players, and I'd hope
we should be good enough, but
I'm expecting Ben Davies. I'm expecting him to come in at centre-back. I don't think there's any reason why he doesn't start. And I think hopefully...
But if he doesn't come in as centre-back...
Well, Sands will play. Sands will play.
No.
Yeah, let me put money on this. He's not going to start. He's not going to start at the weekend.
Who's not?
I'm starting them. Leon King starting the weekend. If there's any doubt about that, I think I would put my money on. I think we've all played football at one time or another, right? I would suggest to you that Leon King, he probably thinks that I think he might be one of the one of the best defenders at Ibrox, right? And he's been sitting on the bench for so long, coming on now and again, playing bit parts, and wondering why he's sitting on the bench. I think this guy's got to be a superstar for us, Leon King, right? We Charlie McCann, he's not had a chance, right? He's not had a chance, right? But we don't play him enough. He doesn't get enough game time. Well, okay, we know Scott Lowry's injured, right? Well, we know that. Right? But this guy, we don't know who he's about yet. We don't see enough of him. We've got Leon, this boy, I think this boy's got the best thing since. See the boy, never mind what their name, but we can't remember their name. They never played for us anyway. I was injured. Leon King, he's the man for me. And Charlie McCann, give him more time, more game time, I would suggest, you know.
I think we'll use them, Jim, when we have to. But we've not spent £4 million on a centre-back bridge, and we're not going to get him in the team, you know. It's not going to happen. So it's about getting him in, and I just... See, if he doesn't play on Saturday, I'll be flabbergasted, honestly, because he's got to start at bridge. There's no reason why now that he will not start. Can he say that he's just come back for an injury? He's got to be ready.
100%. Yeah, he'll have 2 weeks. The manager will have 2 weeks without any football at all. For most of the team, there's very few of our players in international duty anyway. I think my memory serves me right. But there's no excuses. No excuses at all, particularly for Ben Davies, and the manager. The two are intrinsically linked with us. So he has to make sure that Ben Davies is 100% fit. Otherwise, you're going to be asked questions, particularly if he puts him on the bench. He's got to be 100% fit. If he's available, he gets on he plays. He's got to play him. We can't go and ignore Ben Davies and play a youngster. Nothing wrong with the youngster, as the boys have been saying. He plays very well. But Ben Davies is an experienced player, and that's what we're looking for. And then in the Champions League, you're looking for experienced players to turn it on for you.
That's so G.
Bridgeman.
Jim, hold on, Jim.
Sorry.
There's other people on as well. Robert.
Absolutely.
Robert.
Okay.
I'm looking at the squad we've got, and I'm just quickly, right, because we're obviously trying to get a lot of people's views on it. Do you think, when John Bennett made the statement that Connor Golson says we've got the best squad, do you think if everybody was fit, and what's hard to judge because we've not seen Yilmaz and Ben Davies, but looking at the squad and what we've put together, do you think that looks a stronger squad than what we've had before?
How can it be a stronger squad when you've lost two of your best players, Aribo and Bassey? How can that be a stronger squad? No, it's not a stronger squad. It's weakened, and that's why we're in the position we're in just now. The squad is weakened, and Balogun as well. We let him go, and we signed Suter, whatever he's called. So how can it be a stronger squad? No, we brought in the boy Tillman, who looked good at the start, but now he's done the off as well. And the boy Lawrence, who I've always raved about him. I think he's a good player. But if you're asking me, Southside, if we get a stronger squad than last season, nah, no chance, no way.
Big Al?
Well, we've got the same squad as last season, haven't we?
Technically, aye.
We've got the same squad since 2019. Therein lies your problem. Therein lies the problem.
I think Aribo possibly not being replaced at the moment. I know Port made a bold statement. Lawrence would be this better.
I was going to say, is Lawrence not that replacement?
Lawrence is your player that should get in the box and hopefully contribute to goals. He's experienced, Big Al. He's at that age,
and he's probably got a better scoring record per games than Aribo ever had when he was with us. So
he scored some big goals. He scored some big goals, didn't he? I mean, he can't get much higher. I know I keep harping back to that. It just
we never won it. We never won it.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. There's no point in going in a fairy tale ride. You know what I mean? When it's a letdown at the end.
I know.
Southside.
Right, Robert, quickly, because I'll need to go to Jim for
Can I ask you and Big Al a question? This might not go down well, and I know hindsight's I know hindsight's a wonderful thing, but should we have gave, I don't want to use the word has-beens because that's a bit strong, should we have gave players that are by their sell-by date, Davis, McGregor and Arfield, should we have gave them a new contract, Southside and Big Al?
For me, I would have given McGregor. I would have given McGregor one, and probably no Arfield and Davis. But looking at the form at Arfield this season, I think he can be an impact player. So I think that was quite that one sits okay with me. McGregor, I think, but yeah, but they gave McGregor and Arfield if I look at it now. But only because of Arfield's form. But if before the season I wouldn't have gave Arfield one. And that's not nothing against Arfield or Davis or that. It's just I feel as if, what was it we kept saying? Better never stops. Are we bringing in players that will make us push to the next level? I don't see that. So no.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have gave any of the three of them a contract. I do get why they possibly did. To experience maybe the young boys like a Lowry and that learning off Stephen Davis and that, but come on, there's other players and the manager should be coaching them and that and making them a better player, no down to players that have played at the highest level like Stephen Davis. So technically I wouldn't have gave them a out and boat and a goalkeeper, and I was wanting two creative midfield players which we didn't get. Jim,
I'm just going to hang up boys, but a wonderful show. You look after yourself, Robert. John, Jest, I fully support you in all your comments, okay?
Cheers, big man, for the call.
Take care, Big Al. Take care, Val.
No worries. You look after yourself, gentlemen. Take care.
Jim.
Aye.
See when you look at the boy that we signed, Tillman, right? I think he's a good player. What I think he'll have to do is learn to work off the ball, because he doesn't work back hard enough. I think he looks good when you give him the ball, but in our league, for where he's came from in Germany, he's got to work a lot harder for us. And I think if he can get that in his game when we've not got the ball, I think we'll see a better player.
I think you're probably right there. Because I just wonder when people come from different countries. It might be the Bundesliga. Who cares? Great, fantastic league. We know that the English Premier League, but they really know what they're coming to when they come to Scotland playing for Glasgow Rangers. I think it's a culture shock for them, because how heavy it is here and how it's sometimes it must be like playing against. I don't disrespect to junior football, but you play junior football, you know you're in for a game. Now, if you go to the Scottish Premiership, you're in a game here. No matter who you play against, no matter where you go, whether it be, we always mention Ross County, which is unfair to Ross County because they know what they're doing. So do Livingston too. These are hardened professionals, been through the game. They know what they're doing. Some of these guys that come from abroad, it's a culture shock to them. Does that make sense to MD Reid?
No, you agree, Jim. I don't know, Bob Jerry, I don't know if you'd actually seen it. There was footage floating about. If you've seen the tackle that young Lowry got on him against Dumbarton,
I've seen it.
I mean, horrendous. And I mean, Jim, that's what you're sort of getting at. You know, the young boys aren't getting a chance to come in and flurry, and I think the game was nearly done when that happened to him.
Do you remember in the Souness area, and the man was absolutely spot on. He says, we've got to put up with the hammer throwers of Scottish football. And he was exactly right. And it's still the same these days. You've got to put up with the hammer throwers of Scottish football. You go to these various grounds. Robert says they're a culture shock. You go to all these grounds. You're going to one of them on Saturday. And it's the same every away game. You're going into a battle. You know exactly you're into a game of football. You're into a battle. And you've got to learn to live with that and overcome it. And that's what Rangers could always do. And that's what we're hoping this present squad's got the ability to do. It's to go out there every week, obviously. But these away games, Easter Road, Motherwell, you know them all. It's all going to be a battle, and you've got to be up for the battle. And Robert's right, what you say is the guys that come in like Tom and all the football ability in the world, but they've got to learn to overcome this physical battle with these teams before they get us points. I don't think I'm far off the mark there, guys.
Jussie, I think it's probably looking good for us come Saturday because most of our players that we're relying on aren't away in international duty. So the core of our players should be fresh, I would imagine, for coming back on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's only about half a dozen that we've had out. I know Borna played against Croatia at the weekend in a 3-1 win. But Tondo didn't even get in the squad for the last Wales game. So it's quite sparingly used, which is nice because for me, it wasn't really the right time for all of our players to be jetting off. It was nice that Alfredo didn't get picked by Colombia. So Gio will have kept most of the team together. I think they had a few days off last week, but he'd have been. Most of them would have been going in and out of the Ockenhowie, for whatever individual training they were doing and the like. So I think that's good. So they're going to be fresh. Some, we've seen a few players in some teams have been overplayed the last few days. So it's nice that none of the Rangers players were part of that. So what that means, though, guys, not going to be any excuses at the weekend. As Bob Joe was saying, we know it's going to be a tough venue. We know they're going to be physical. We also know Hearts can play a bit as well, with respect to them. So it's not going to be an easy game. I really don't know if Davis is going to start that match because I don't think, if he doesn't start that, I don't think he'll play against Liverpool, my friend. But we'll see what happens because it's going to be a tough game and it will certainly be more than just a warm-up appetizer before the Liverpool game.
Certainly will. Looking forward to that one as well, Liverpool. Just when you were talking there about Hearts, Jussie, Bridge. Lee Wallace obviously retired, hung his boots up, done his proud in the fact that he stayed and got his back up through the leagues, captain of Glasgow Rangers. I know Ox had him doing as his third best left back ever to play for the Glasgow Rangers.
What left backs were better than him? That's the question.
He had Jimmy Phillips. And he had Tim above him, aye. Tommy Cowan, I think, was his other one. That was his three favourite left backs to play for the Glasgow Rangers.
No, look, he did very well. He came during where problems started, big style. He came across and eventually became captain. I think for the first 2 seasons or season and a half, we had McCulloch was the captain, and I think Lee Wallace took over, and he's done a tremendous. He's served Rangers tremendously well, and I'm proud to say he'd been involved with Rangers during our worst time and was a huge part in taking us back up to the top table. So we can't ask for any more from him than that. Personally, think he got himself a couple of injuries that he couldn't actually play through. That's my opinion, and that's one of the reasons why Rangers eventually let him go. But seriously, take my hat off to him, and the players like him that came through and stuck with Rangers would always be in Rangers fans' thoughts, insofar as that's concerned. Great for us.
Bridgeman, it wasn't such a bad
Jim, hold on. I'll come to you, right? I'll come to you, pal. Let him finish first.
I'm sorry, I just thought it was
all right.
So just to say, Jim, as far as I'm concerned, and I believe a lot of other Rangers fans think that he was a good captain for us and a great servant, and he came through. He did the business for us. He brought us through to where we were.
Yeah, fair. Absolutely. That's what I agree with you, Bridgeman. I think it was a bad call. Aye, okay. Cool. All this week, Bridgeman.
Robert, I think we can't go into it all because we don't know the truth of the matter, but I think he was shabbily treated in the end, the way he left the club and that. But I still thought he stayed. He put his international career on line for it as well. I know Jussie will give some of his stats when I come to Jussie, so try and keep it brief and I'll try and go on everybody. But great servant for the club and come back up through the leagues for us, eh?
Southside, you've just told my thunder. See that guy, that boy Lee Wallace, he was treated crap with Rangers. That boy gave up his international career, gave up earning big money. He could have went somewhere and got big money, and that boy stuck by us through the lower leagues. unlike the rest of them at odd jump ship. And let's be honest about it, the odd jump ship, but that boy didn't. And you know what? Happy retirement, Lee Wallace. And thank you very, all I'm going to say here is, thank you very much, Captain, for what you've done for us. And you were a good, you might have not been the greatest left back we ever had, but you played in a very good Rangers team. Let's be honest about it, Southside. He didn't play in a very good Rangers team, but you know what? He never let himself down once. And most importantly, he never let Glasgow Rangers down once. And I'll say, well done, Lee Wallace. Total respect to him.
Well, he done something that Gordon Jury couldn't do. Score against the Celtic.
Yes.
Right, Juicy. He played. I seen he had played 475. Yes, no for Rangers. He'd played 475 games in his whole career. Scored 30 goals and had 10 international caps.
Oh, it's just fantastic. I can't follow on from what Robert has said there. Young Robert, that was fantastic. He just did so well for us in terms of showing what leadership really is Southside. And from a stats point of view, 191 matches for Rangers, 21 goals for Rangers, and prior to that, 139 appearances for Hearts as well. So he's definitely a Scottish legend. Damaged his career from an international perspective, but of course from a Rangers perspective, absolute legend from sticking with us through thick and thin. And I am sad about how it ended with him, but he will always be welcome back at our club, whether he just as a fan, as a day to see the fans, or whether he ever comes back in a management team capacity or whatever. I'd be thrilled if he would be involved in our club again in the future, because he stood up and he was a man's man. And I'm forever grateful for what he's done for our club, my guys. And again, the goal at Piggery. I was watching it earlier.
Juicy, can I ask you a question? Can I mention another name to you? Juicy, listen to me. Can I ask you another question about another...
Quickly, Jim. Quickly.
I'm going to mention a name called David Weir. How does that stand out in his reputation?
Well, I think when you consider that he joined us towards the back end of his career, very much the back end of his career in terms of his age, I thought he did a very, very good job for us as a captain and as a player. He wasn't the paciest of players as a centre-back. My goodness, could he read the game? And when you consider...
Did you think he blotted his copybook?
Because of the way it finished for him as well?
Yeah.
These are things that I don't like to dwell on forever, because I like to think about what someone did for us for the majority of their time. Not all of the players in our club through the years always left under the best of circumstances. Even Ali McCoy, who not everyone's a massive fan of his, but we still have to remember that he guided us towards where we are now through those lower leagues, as well as being a good striker for the club as well. He then didn't leave under the best of circumstances. But things change, time moves on, and you have to sometimes remember what these guys did for us while they were here. David Weir did a lot for Rangers, including helping us win titles and helping us get to a UEFA Cup final.
Good answer.
Aye.
100%. I think Bob Jerry.
Can I get a quick word on Lee Wallace?
Yeah, on you go, Bob Jerry.
A very quick word. Well, all I can say is this. I mean, the tributes to him he's poured out, they were absolutely brilliant. Well done, lads. Especially you, Robert. Well done. All I can say about Lee Wallace is, if he had played in a normal standard Rangers team, Lee Wallace would have lifted quite a bit of silverware. Believe me, he would have. And thanks to him for being the captain that he was and getting us up and back to where we are. So for him, for people like him and David Weir, let's get better, let's push on, and let's get more silverware. I'm going to sign out, guys. It's nearly time anyway.
No bother, Bob J. Thanks
Good
very
night,
much
lads.
for phoning in as always.
Privilege. Pleasure.
Nice one, Bob.
Bye-bye.
I think the one thing we can all say about Davy Weir as well as obviously we're talking about Lee Wallace. I think he was just a model professional. I think he led by example. I think everybody spoke about him that have worked with him and been in the dressing room with him. They said he was always honest, hard working and demanded the best, so I think he conducted himself very well when he was at Glasgow Rangers. I think he had a difficult time when we were back down the leagues to get us back up. And we'd seen a lot of ins and outs, and there was players in Rangers jerseys, to be honest, that should never have been in a Rangers jersey back then, as far as I'm concerned, that played with the club. But that's for another day, and obviously it was in the past. But we're just
I'll never argue with that.
Well, Jim, I'll give you a wee last word to say, pal, because we're coming to the end of the show.
Listen, we're looking forward to the Hearts game, and just hope we put our game up better than we've done all season. I really hope for 3 points in the weekend, and let's go to Tabba Liga.
That's it, Jim. Let's hope that our league campaign now starts this Saturday. Robert, I think that's what we're all hoping for. First and foremost, the 3 points is the most important, no matter performance for me. But 3 points is a must, Robert?
Yes. And see, tonight in Rangers Radio, the subjects I've spoken about, it's got me emotional, right? And that's what I want with the Rangers players on Saturday. Come on, Rangers, get out there and do it. Get out there and do it. Give 100%, and we'll be right behind you as we always are, the Rangers fans. And that's what I'm looking forward to, Southside. Saturday afternoon, let's go to Tynecastle and let's put the Rangers where they belong, the top of the league. Good night, Southside and Rangers Radio. Thank you for taking my call. Thank you. Much appreciated.
No bother, Robert. Thanks very much for phoning in as always, pal. Appreciate it. Jim, we're just going to shut the show, pal, all right? So thanks for phoning in as always. I appreciate it.
Yeah, by the way, thanks for your patience for listening to me.
No worries, pal. You're always welcome on here. Also, I'd like to thank Blue Star. Blue Star, I don't know if you're still listening. You were talking about atmospheres and away grounds. Ajax away, actually. The last game, they absolutely rocked that stadium, and you could feel it bouncing at the other end, believe me. I'd also like to thank Robert, yourself, Jim, Bob, Jer and Big Al for phoning in. I appreciate you all phoning in to Rangers Radio this evening. Juicy, anything to say, pal, before we shut the show?
Oh, thanks. It's been a fantastic night and very nicely chaired by yourself, Southside. And thank you to my friend Bridgeman as well for keeping me company tonight and everyone who's phoned in. Build up to the Hearts game starts here, guys. Let's get it on.
Exactly. Bridgeman.
What can I say? I'd like to echo Juicy's words there. Well done to you, Southside. Well done indeed. And the technical team, well done to you guys as well. And thanks, Juicy, being my partner on this. Thank you. Can I just say to all the Rangers fans all over the world, in particular Rangers fans on here, on Rangers Radio, next big game this weekend coming, next big game, biggest game of the season for us. Make no mistake, biggest game of the season. We need to win. So everybody's building up for it. So come on, Rangers fans, get the pressure on. Go for it. Keep it going for the Rangers, because the Rangers need you.
I would like to thank you two gentlemen as well for doing the show with me. I thoroughly appreciate you've been on, and it's been a great help. I also like to thank the backroom team, Old School Blue and Fox, for doing the technicals. Without them, there is no show. I'd also like to thank each and every one of you for listening this evening. Come on, Rangers, let's do this on Saturday. It's time to get our season going. Let's do this, Rangers. Let's go.